Nothing on the Bonnell Foundation's Living with Cystic Fibrosis podcast should be considered medical advice. Medical advice can only come from your CF physician. Cystic fibrosis can be a devastating diagnosis, but living with the disease can bring positivity and a new appreciation for each day. From the Bonnell Foundation in Detroit, Michigan, it's the Living with Cystic Fibrosis podcast, sponsored by Vertex Pharmaceutical. Here's your host, Laura Bonnell.
Representative Jim Ellison and I met years ago. I think it was about a decade ago. Either way, it's been a while. And he talks about how we met when we get into this podcast. Representative Ellison is in his third term as the representative for the 26th House District of Royal Oak and Madison Heights. He got his start in politics as a city commissioner, then mayor, and now a state rep. Representative Ellison and wife Jodie have raised 8 kids between them, and they are both strong supporters of cystic fibrosis. Thanks for joining us, Representative Jim Ellison. Thank you so much. You've been a huge part of the cystic fibrosis community, a great friend to the Bonnell Foundation, and a great friend to me. And it's great to know you and your fabulous and very involved wife, Jodie. So I wanted to, of course, mention her because she's outstanding as well. So thanks for joining us.
My pleasure, Laura. You and I go back quite a few years, just kind of a happenstance kind of a meeting about, I think it was about a news story or something. And, and I just, and we connected quickly. And I got the story of your daughters and the battle for cystic fibrosis. And it's just, we've kind of been there for each other for a few years.
Yeah, we have. I used to be out on a news story and then, I would see you somewhere at a coffee shop or whatever, gas station, right?
Yeah, gas station getting coffee, yeah.
Right. Definitely. Big need for coffee. Well, let's kind of start in the beginning. If you want to tell us kind of your story about how you got into politics, why you did, if there was anything specifically that directed you to where you started.
It depends on how far you want to go back. I mean, born and raised in Royal Oak, so I've been here my entire life, almost 70 years now. Very much enamored and taken with the city, the product of school system, raised my family here. So, I'm basically a Royal Oak guy. And along with that came a vested interest in helping my city progress. And back in the late 80s, I'd been involved. I was involved in the city traffic committee and stuff like that. I was dissatisfied with the level of leadership that we had on our elected officials. I wasn't happy with where they were going. There seemed to be a lot of infighting, and they spent more time arguing amongst themselves than making progressive decisions for the city. So I decided back in the 1990 to run for city commission. So I threw my hat in the ring and did get elected. I served 4 years as a city commissioner. The first 2 years I was part of a 4-person majority. And the second 2 years, I was a 1-person minority, which is very frustrating because I wasn't able to accomplish what I wanted to do, which is try to make some change and try to get us on a better course. The positive side of that is I did have a very good relationship with the mayor at the time, Dennis Cowan. And Dennis and I formed a very strong friendship that remains to this day. I was impressed with the way he functioned as a mayor. But a number of years later, I was serving on the planning commission at the time. We got into a situation back in 2003 where I was seeing the same thing happening again. We had a lot of infighting. There were a lot of personality conflicts, and there were a lot of people mad at each other. And I go, I'm ready for this. I'd gone through a lot of change in my life. I'd gone through a divorce. I'd remarried. And my life was back on an even keel. And so I ran for mayor, and it was a hard-fought battle, but I did win. My first term, starting in 2003, was mayor all the way through. 7 consecutive terms. I finally left in 2016 when I ran for state office. But to go back to the mayor thing, I mean, my first 3 elections were contested. My last 4 were uncontested. I took that as a sign that the people in the community were happy with the job I was doing, the leadership I was providing. That was a period of tremendous growth for the city of Royal Oak. I'm proud that I had some part of that. But, I always stated the big deal for a fellow like me to be a mayor of my hometown. Mm-hmm. It felt really good, and I was very satisfied with, very happy with the job I did. And then I decided to take that knowledge of local government that I acquired over 13 years and try to apply it to the state. Semi-effective. Up in Lansing, I serve on the local government committee. I'm the Democratic vice chair of the local government committee, and we have some initiatives that we're working on up there to try to primarily change how the state finances local governments, because we're really in kind of a weird situation between the effects of the heavy amendment and Proposal A, which changed the taxing system, and each of them individually were fine, but the two of them together are a perfect storm. They have negative effects on each other. And so we're trying to, and I'm getting some bipartisan support on that. So hopefully by the end of this session, we'll have some kind of changes in place that we can start moving forward. But again, I'm very, very happy with that position. I also got involved partly because of my involvement with you in cystic fibrosis, and also the fact that I had Beaumont Hospital in my district. I got involved with the Health Policy Committee. So I was on Health Policy Committee for 4 years, and I had to let one of them go this year. So unfortunately, I had to let health policy go, and I stayed on local government and tax policy. They're both kind of intricate to what I'm trying to do, which is change the taxing structure. So that's where I am. I'm in my third term. Trying to figure out what life's going to be after my term expired, because I am term limited. And so, I'll be out there trying to, I'm not ready to go out the pasture yet.
Thank goodness.
There still is work to do, and I still have the energy to do it. So.
And isn't it interesting, because when I was 12, long time ago, I thought the same thing about your path. I was thinking, oh, I can be a news anchor or a reporter better than what I'm seeing out there. Uh-huh. And that's when I decided that I wanted to get into the news business, and same kind of journey for you. It's just when you figure out whatever your passion is, and then you figure out how you can help people. And it actually turned into being a voice for me to raise awareness about cystic fibrosis. And even though I'm not at WWJ right now, they're still playing the public service announcements, and we have such a great relationship. So it is interesting, the paths that we choose. And the other thing that I've learned from you, and also my dad, who was in politics, he was a president of Southfield School Board. He ran for mayor against Fracassi, and of course we know he lost. But it's important to get involved in your community. If you're not involved, or if you're not the mayor, or if you haven't run or done something, you need to get involved, because it's really easy to complain.
And getting involved is important. I mean, it wasn't just the political aspect I got involved in. I mean, I coached soccer. I coached my kids in soccer. I got involved in men's softball, and I was on the JCs, and I was involved in Stagecrafters. It's just, and I was active in my church, and it's just getting yourself involved in your community. And I got involved in those aspects before I was in politics, because I wanted to coach my kids soccer, and I wanted to be involved in theater. But what I found out afterwards is all those investments of my time and my energies paid off when I did run for office, because people knew me. If you're aspiring for some kind of political career, whatever level it is, my advice would be to get involved in anything you can get involved in, and provide whatever talents you have to the community or the entity that you're volunteering for. From that aspect, I'm very happy. My life is very busy, sometimes to the detriment of my family life. But, you figure out a way to get past those hard points and try to move forward and continue to bring positive vibes to the world.
Absolutely. And you do. And I think one thing that I'm really grateful for is that you are part of the cystic fibrosis community, and you've been on board with us for so long. I don't even know how many years it is. So
you brought me in early. It was because I did met your daughter, but both you lovely young ladies, and to see them not suffering, that's not a bad word, dealing with this disease. But I think the turning point for me was a number of years ago, you invited me to a presentation of a film that was done. And the information that was disseminated in that film, and I met the guy that was in the film, and it just, yes, this is a situation. There's a story of this guy's life and how he was productive. He was a runner, and all this others very active, and he was dealing with CF. It was a lesson in one man's struggle to deal with this, and it was also a lesson.
It was Jerry Cahill.
Yes, I couldn't remember his name. And perseverance. And he had some tough issues that he pushed himself through. It was very impressive. These people have, in spite of the fact they've got, this situation they're dealing with in cystic fibrosis, they also have a bigger drive to stay alive and be productive. And so that was, I think, the turning point. I became very committed, and that's when we started to, declare, I think in April and May, we're going to declare a cystic fibrosis.
May, yes.
Yeah, cystic fibrosis month again, and we have our annual Journey Up to Lansing. And along the way, I've discovered a colleague of mine who feels very much the same way, and it's Representative Mike Mueller. And Mike is a Republican, a Democrat, but in this case, it doesn't make any difference. Mike's sister is a CF patient, and we talk a lot about our involvement in this. And so, you never know what you'll learn along the way. And so Mike and I will be presenting May as Cystic Fibrosis Month next month. So you got to pick out something you feel you can contribute to and move forward. So
How does that happen that you can, make it Cystic Fibrosis Awareness Month? It's that something that you have the power to do that?
As representatives, we're allotted, I think, 3 resolutions a session, or 3 set resolutions a year. I can't remember what it is. Heidi, my legislative director, is much smarter on that aspect of it. But we do have a choice, and I've chosen cystic fibrosis as one of my annual honorees. So yeah, and we can put these, and we write a resolution, and we present it to the House of Representatives, and then we vote on it, goes to the Senate, they vote on it, and all of a sudden May is Cystic Fibrosis Month. And it's like we do it every year. There's hardly ever any controversy on any of these months. We all do it. And so, we had a session here last week that we had. The month of April was named 8 different times. Different months, 4 different, but the whole purpose of it is to bring awareness to the cause. We'll do a resolution on cystic fibrosis, and there'll be some coverage in the Lansing area, the legislative news, and all that. And it's all going to get the word out there. Cystic Fibrosis Month is May, and then that's where you guys in the association capitalize on it and get your words out, and you try to push. Personally, my personal commitment is when I buy on Amazon,
right?
The Bonnell Foundation is my charity that I give money to, and then I got a notice here a few weeks ago that Amazon gave you some money, and that's good.
It did. I know. It's smile.amazon.com, something like that, which is wonderful because, it doesn't come out of anyone's.
Not a lot of money.
Oh, it adds up, though. It's wonderful. And the fact that you make it Cystic Fibrosis Awareness Month every year, if you only did it once, then there wouldn't be that yearly reminder with all your colleagues. So,
fortunately, I can say with my term expiring, Mike will be up there for another couple years after that, so we can carry the tradition on. It's just, when Mike's done, we'll have to find someone else.
Right, absolutely, and we will. And because of that connection that you made to me, he actually came over pre-pandemic when we were, able to be at the Capitol, and introduced himself, and it was great. It was like, wow, I mean, who knew that someone here had a sibling with cystic fibrosis? And since then, I talked to Madeline, his sister, just this week, and she had a double lung transplant 2 years ago. She's doing very well, and she's an older person with CF. I think she's 50. For CF, that's older, And we are going to talk as well about her journey and everything, but it's wonderful to be able to raise awareness.
The more you get it out there, the more people. When I found out about Mike's sister, it was after we gave the resolution last year, and he approached me. He was a rookie on the floor. We were early in the session. Then he says, "By the way, my sister has cystic fibrosis. How can I get involved with you?" So we move forward from that point.
And that is wonderful. And in addition to Representative Mueller, do you see that it's raised awareness amongst your colleagues or other people that you've run into since we started doing CF Awareness Month?
I don't talk on the floor with people about it. I will talk about it when we're presenting it. When it's fresh news on the floor, tell me a little bit about it. And then unfortunately we go on to the next day and the next resolution, but it's out there and it becomes part of the House Journal and becomes part of the permanent record. And so, anybody in the future can go back and say, oh, the state of Michigan did this 4 or 5 years in a row. So it must mean something. It's never too little. Any word out there. So people will come up to me and say, oh, I saw that you passed cystic fibrosis resolution. And the story's all the same. And it's kind of the brief history. And I met you and your daughters and found out about the disease. And it was something that I wanted to invest my time and energies in because it was a damn good cause. And I want to stay with it. I'll stay with it when I'm done.
Thank you. So now you have agreed to co-author this Rare Disease Advisory Council. And so we're working on that, and that will help raise awareness and build communication between legislators and the rare disease community. So thank you for that. How does it feel to be in the beginning stages of that?
It's exciting. We've got Kara Clementes working on that as well, and she's a colleague of mine from downriver. My focus has been cystic fibrosis. That's my rare disease. There's so many more out there. So hopefully within this consortium of people we can build up awareness for some of the other rare diseases that you don't hear about and work from there. So it's exciting. There is a big push right now up in Lansing, and I'm not sure if it's the makeup of the people who are elected, But healthcare has become priority because we're all dealing with, especially during the pandemic.
Right.
And all the other healthcare issues we got, the cost of healthcare, the cost of drugs. So we have been busy. There's a lot of healthcare initiatives that are coming forth to us. Some of them I agree with, some of them I don't, but that's the nature of legislative work. Sometimes you like it, sometimes you don't. So, but you always try to find whatever is the best solution for whatever the problem is.
And do you think that we will be able to get somewhere? I feel like those of us in the cystic fibrosis community are well aware of all the health concerns. And I do think the pandemic has helped because people are sadly having long-term problems with COVID.
Oh.
And then you're going to realize that, wow, you're being charged for things you had no idea about.
Oh, yeah.
You might have copay accumulators, or you might have other things that are going to impact you.
The catchphrase right now is drug managers.
Yeah.
Is the middle person that makes a couple bucks off of your drugs. And so, we're looking at that. How important is this purpose? But yeah, it's been a tough road to hoe, especially the last 4 years, because there really hasn't been a whole heck of a lot of support coming out of Washington, D.C. And so we're hoping that'll change under the new administration. It's more than just a D versus R situation.
Absolutely.
People are realizing that our health is important. And, if we as a nation, as a state, as a local government, we have got to get invested because we need to keep our people healthy. So I feel optimistic. Again, a lot of this is because my side is in charge, but that's for the next 4 years. And so we've got to take advantage of the time you've got. We need to make some things happen and make it happen fast. And hopefully they're good enough that, we'll stay with these programs. But that's the nature of politics. You're only as good as the guys who are in charge.
Exactly. And what do you say to people some people just spout off whatever soundbite they heard from someone that they approve of what they're saying? Do you tell people to get information, whether it's the COVID vaccine or it's a health bill, to go to an impartial website and make their own decisions? Or how do you help people get through the weeds of everything?
One thing I try to avoid is jumping into the mud with the trolls. And the trolls are always going to be out there, and they're going to make up stories and try to elicit a response. I try to stay away from that because, you jump in the mud with the trolls, you get dirty and they get happy. Like you say, I would try to say that this is where you can find information. I know on my Facebook, my official state rep Facebook page, my staffer, Madeline, constantly keeps it updated with the latest information we have, with links so you can find answers to your problems. Informally, in my conversations, I try to avoid the confrontations because most of the time these people, they don't want advice. They got talking points, and this is what they've been told, and this is what they believe, and no amount of logic is going to change their mind. So I try to save my discussions for people that have an open mind and want to listen and want to know exactly what's going on without preconceived notions. And so I will spend my efforts to those. I will acknowledge people that have a dissenting opinion. I hear you. I hear what you're saying. I don't agree with you, but, we move on.
Absolutely. And we're, again, really glad to have you in the CF community. Is there anything else that you wanted to add about your involvement with CF, or anything else maybe that we didn't touch on?
Well, yeah, I would say if you're not aware of CF, get aware. It's a health issue that we need to have more of. But even if it's not CF, if it's another disease out there that is affecting you as a family, you've got a family member that's going through some kind of health issues, and you don't quite understand what this person is facing, learn about it. Learn what's happening. Maybe you could be an advocate. I mean, again, before I talked to Laura about her daughters, CF was just 2 letters that were on the side of a freight truck, if you remember. And you listened, you learned, it piqued your interest. And fortunately, Laura used to be, she'd have to drag me along, but not so much anymore. But it's this very interesting disease. And I'm very proud to be an advocate. But it's not just the only disease. There's so many other diseases. That's why we've got this rare disease group coming up, and find out something about someone that is going through healthcare that you don't understand, and learn about it. Because if you can talk to someone and be knowledgeable about it, rather than just pat their hand and say, "Oh, I'm so sorry, you're sick," talk to them and understand where they're coming from and the trials and tribulations they're going through dealing with this disease. And it can be very, very, very rewarding.
It is, right? It is. Great words, great thoughts. I appreciate it. It's so helpful just to have the knowledge and educate yourself on someone else's situation. It's kind of like trying to step into their shoes. So yeah, it is a wonderful thing.
You don't ever pretend to try to understand exactly what they're going through, because
Right.
you don't. Unless you are, you don't know. But if you go in with an understanding of what the disease is, what the ailment is, you can be more helpful than just sitting there and saying, "Oh, I'm so sorry." It's just
Right.
give them some confidence that someone does care, someone other than their family.
Absolutely. Well, Representative Jim Ellison, thank you so much for all you're doing on behalf of cystic fibrosis and also rare diseases. Thank you so much for joining us.
Laura, my pleasure. Anything you ask me to do, I will usually do it with certain limitations. But no, it's always a pleasure sitting down and talking with you and talk about the subject. Because as I said earlier, the more we talk about it, the more it becomes open.
Thank you.
Thanks, Laura.
The original music in this podcast is performed by Kevin Allen,
It's not complicated.
who happens to have cystic fibrosis.
We all got our worries and fears. I know it's got you frustrating, but loving you is so alright.
This has been the Living with Cystic Fibrosis podcast. For more information and to learn more about the Bonnell Foundation, check them out online at thebonnellfoundation.org. That's BONNELL Foundation.org. This podcast was sponsored by Vertex Pharmaceutical, the science of possibility, and produced by Jag and Detroit Podcasts,